we're back to the old girl, and it's been a while. We're not going to talk too much about it. We've got a lot of work to do. The first bit of that work is to actually come in here now and close this up here on the block. There's a little drain there for water on the block. I also have to put a Juby clip back in here or here, just trying to remember. Yeah, it's the bottom one, but a Juby clip back on that hose. So I drained all of the coolant out of this here 2 days ago. It looked alright. It had a bit of colour in it. I always like to drain coolant out of stuff if it's a new machine on our old machine on our farm that we just got. Just drain it out and put new coolant in it. At least then you know that you have it right. Fingertips. That's it closed. Right, uncover our little trap door here for our water. Put the pinky in. That's the top of our radiator. Just squeeze this pipe here so I can hear it the minute above. That's pretty much good. Right, so now we have water in it, and that's it done. We add a wee bit of board poo just to seal a wee hole there that was on top of the bonnet. But anyway, the next thing we need to do now is our rams. Our rams are off this loader, so at the moment that's why we can't move it, and why you've probably seen it sitting here and a lot of our videos not been moved. So our rams are back now. They're back a couple of weeks. The pins are in remarkably good condition. So them pins are perfect to reuse again. Right, so this is my makeshift spray boot that I set up a couple of days ago, and all I have is my trestles here, some clear wrap from the silage pit around it, just to keep the spray off. It's an amazing amount of overspray that gets around here, but otherwise my handle brush is under phenomenal pressure, but it's held out, in fairness to it. So I'm just putting a bit of grease into these holes here. Oh Jesus, this would be a good job for two people. Oh, the weight of this, and this is a small one. Oh, get in there. And she's in. There she goes. Right, so another pin all greased up and ready to go in here. I'm just wondering will this ram pull out and let me do that? Don't think you're going to do that. You seem to be fairly solid. Oh, here we go. That's better. That helps me a lot. Haha, now we're making progress. Alright, so I had to put on the peak hat on me because the solar panels on the roof were getting too hot. We can put in our split pins now and be finished with this side. Well, this ram, I should say. Okay. All right, so these are our two pipes. Now, just tied up the last of them. Before I hook up any pipes of any kind, I'm going to stick on the bottom one now as well. Grease is your friend. Well, it's your cheapest friend. Get this side in first. There she goes. Alright. Now we have her. I think our loader has to be lifted a wee bit. Maybe not. It's true what they say, sometimes just all you need is a bigger hammer. Somebody's having a nightmare. Hudson? You alright? The other one's behind here somewhere, sunning herself. Not a bother in the world, no. Good. So we have our two pipes here now in the bottom. We're going to connect up. This one's got T for it. So T for Thomas or T for top. So we'll go with top on this occasion. The other one's for the bottom one. So a wee bit awkward to get in at, like everything on this digger. There's the other pipe there, but let's try to hook them up. Just getting it started is the problem. Everything's just with the fingertips. So this whole ram here was rebuilt. This is where I have to kind of give appreciation to Conaty's Tractors, John Conaty's Tractors, because I was going to originally break them apart and then look at what seals was in them and then fix them myself. But when I took one apart and looked, there's a whole different kettle of fish than what was on the loader, our Massey loader. Completely different inside and looked like a bit of a nightmare to get apart. But they asked me not to take them apart, just drop all 4 up to them. But they'll give them to their man and he will pull them apart. And at least then they have all the rams there and they can get whatever seals is needed, everything's in front of them. So I wasn't going to argue with that when I seen what was inside one of them. Another thing was this ram here, if you remember, was completely destroyed. There's a big lump welded on here and it was a mess. So I had assumed that they were going to change this ram, and I think a lot of it is changed. I don't know which part of it is original, but this whole ram here that comes down underneath this cardboard is all brand new and fully rebuilt. This bar and all was re-welded in. Yeah, whoever did it definitely put in the tool time and made a really good job of it, and they repacked the 4 rams for me. So I didn't ask them to do that, but they wanted to get doing it. So that was no easy task, and definitely something that has helped me an awful lot in getting this front end sealed up. So massive thank you to the lads in Conaty's. And look, if you need any bits and pieces for an old machine or whatever and you're pricing around, make sure you don't go buy them. They have a website there that's packed with stuff, and they have a great walk-in shop as well in Kells. So yeah, massive thank you to them, and I'm going to say that they sponsored this video because of that. The bolt that was in here was well worn, so we're going to stick a new one in. This is a bit longer, but we can cut it off. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is open this nut here and drain this hydraulic oil, because I have a feeling there's a lot of water in it, and I have a feeling there's also got a lot of different mixes of oil in it, because the guy that I bought it off said he was opening up and honest about it. He said it was just throwing anything into it. Right, so when that's draining out, let's open this fella here and see, can we do something with it. See? That side there is not oxidized. And I can see now into that tube, so. But I'm going to take it out anyway. I'm going to just give it a quick clean and pop it back in again. But I think that will save us with trying to replace that, because trying to find that part mightn't be so easy. Anyway, there it is there. So I'm not sure if you can see this in the shade. It's probably better in the shade than the sun. But I can see through that pipe there now. But if you turn it this way, that's what's facing out. So see the way the sun has affected that, so you can't see that side, but here you can. Do your best to clean it out, flush it out, and then we'll put it back together again, and hopefully then we'll fit to see our level, which would be very, very handy. Right, so now we have our plug back in, and we have this turned around, and it looks a lot better now than what it did. At least I can see right inside the pipe, and that definitely will give us some sort of an indication when we put our oil in. But before we put our oil in, we need to change a filter inside. Take this lid off here. Down there, with a pin going through it, there is the guy we have to loosen and take off. There's a filter in there. This is one of those jobs where I've been a little bit on the taller side. Definitely works against you. This here should turn. There we go. Come on. There we are. So in here there should be a kind of a mesh filter. And I think I have the right one here. I hope I do. I think the lid is kind of just half seized on. Wee tips here to see. That's more like it. Oh, maybe. You see that there? It's just like, just old slime. If you haven't got one of these in a workshop and you're working on engines or whatever, I do recommend you get one. They're not expensive and hard handy for loads of different things. So it's just basically a pump in reverse. So every time you pump, it sucks out rather than blow out. And it's great for getting rid of oil, water, or pipes, things like that. Powerful. So I'm just going to stick this wee pipe down here, down into the oil. I'm just going to rat you in here and just clean out the bottom bit. So a new filter here, exactly the same as the one that came out. That sits there. I just want to tighten it good and tight so the next person gets it hard to open it. Alright, so now we're underneath the tractor, digger, whatever you want to call it. And this by here is tied on with a big ignorant lump of rope. It could be a transmission oil filter, I don't know. I have looked up the workshop manual and I can't find any sign of this filter. But it is painted yellow, so it probably was on this some way or other. There's a bracket here at the top that's broken. And I have searched around and I can't see where it broke off. So if anybody's got one of these on the side of theirs, if they could take a picture of it and just show me where it goes, would be much obliged, because it would help me get this back together. I might figure it out as I go along, but I have a feeling there's a filter in here, and I'm going to get a wrench around this somewhere or other and see, can we have a look and see what's in here, because I have a feeling there's a wee mesh filter for some reason or other due to the size of it. Right, so at a distance it looks like a 19, which it isn't. Let me see, is it a 22? Oh yeah, it's a 22. Right, which is loose then anyway. Let's see what's behind door number 1. Oh yeah, it's a mesh filter. Oh, that's transmission. It's probably coming from the torque unit then, I'd be thinking. That can be washed. I'm going to take that down, wash it out with a bit of petrol. Right, so we have her cleaned. Lift her back up. It's actually surprising how much dirt was in that filter. It looked clean when I first took it out, and then I put it in a bucket of petrol. There's a different story. She's tight. Okay, the one thing I don't want to look at any longer is this big rope. Looks like a big old dirty horse's tail hanging down to greet you every time you go under here. So let me get in here and get this cut. Now, that's 100 times better already. So I'm just looking at these pipes here. So this is a big oil pipe that's coming, and that is coming direct from the hydraulic filter that we just changed in the cab of the tractor. But I don't like these Juby clips. It seems to me like a lot of pressure for just one Juby clip. Like, I picked up these here. They're a bigger, heavier duty clamp, and these are leaking, by the way, on both sides. And I'm thinking if we can open this up and get this around the pipe. Does it open? It does. I don't think it's meant to though. See, now this bolt go back in, because it seems to like to fall out. Now just pull this Juby clip off. There we go. That's that done. I only have one of these, but at least now I have the number 68 to 73, so I can get another one of them locally and put it on the other end, because the other end is underneath here and it's very hard to see it. Well, there it is, and it's got 2 Juby clips on it, and that's what's causing that whole leak there on the ground there at the minute. And the Juby clips themselves even look loose. They were never designed to hold a pipe that has wire inside it, whereas them bucks there, that there will never move. That is our level for our transmission fluid. There's a line, and that line there, well, it should say oil level. It's just been painted over before. So I have this backed off. It's 28mm nut. We're just going to back this off here, here underneath, just to catch it. Oh, it is full. Right, okay. It is over full. Yeah, the oil itself looks very good. It's been over full like that. That's a worry. So we'll put that back on there now. So this is the power steering pump here, just underneath your alternator. Now this is your cap here, and you loosen that off again, it should just be level, the bottom of this. I have a feeling when I open this one there'll not be a whole pile in it. I'm only checking it now at the minute. I will have to check it again, because to do these, really what you need to do, if I remember right from our 565, you have to turn the wheels to the left, full lock, and then you check. You turn off your engine, then you check. It should be just about trickling out of that cap there, but I'm not going to do that now because I have the machine running. But I'm just going to have a look when I'm in here. It'll only take a couple of minutes and see what kind of oil we have in it at the minute. Alright. Well, I see it. It's just about 1/4 of an inch below the top of the level. I can just see it. This is just ordinary ATF oil, which works 100%. There we are. So what I'm using here is an oil called Hydro 46. A lot of people do mention this oil. This is the right one to use. So it's obviously filling through, so we give it a minute or two just to drop down, but at least now we can see the oil. But there's the low level, there's an L there, and there's the full. So at the minute it's still dropping. That's good, no leaks. So one thing you'll notice about this machine as well is how quick the front hydraulics are. Amazed how quick they are. Like this tractor or digger, whatever you want to call it, is only ticking over. And look how quick the hydraulics is on this. Now there is a little bit of chuttering. That's because there's still air in the system. The more you lift it up and down, I'd say that'll stop. Just like there, when it's at full height. Yeah, see that little resistance? That's to be expected because these rams are probably empty of oil, so the more you lift them up and down, the quicker they'll get. Before we get out, some of you might ask, geez Adrian, what happened to the dash? Well, all the pieces of the dash are laying in there because I need to rewire all of this. There's quite a nasty bit of wiring in there. It's not too bad, it's just dirty more than anything, but a lot of these terminals, the like of these things here, they're a disaster. They shouldn't be on any auto electrics at all. So I'm going to take all that apart, tidy up the whole wiring, solder everything, check everything that it's working. I know none of these switches work, none of them work, but I think they don't work because they're not getting any power. So it could be just a bad earth or something simple like that. Not one of the clocks works either. But it's the kind of a job you really do need to take your time at. And generally on a machine like this, it's quite straightforward. It just looks a bit daunting when you first look at it, but you kind of just have to start at your ignition and keep tracing your circuits the whole way along till you find where the fault is. And when you do a few of them, you'll get used to it fairly quick. So you can see, as I talked about the wires, the dangers of all these wires, and anything could go afire at any time. Rather than having to disconnect the battery every time, I want to be fit to put a kill switch on it. Oh, heat is your friend. You just can't beat it. Right, let's move the handbrake. Oh, so there's the heater. There is a heater in it. Alright, there we go. Ideal. So what I want to do now, I've just tilted the whole thing up, and I want to put a wee dot of weld on all of these nuts on the bottom, and that way it'll secure them that they're welded to this, so that you don't have to put a wrench, so you don't have to put a wrench in behind to get at them, because there'll be no access for that. If you put a dot of weld on all the nuts, then at least you can open it all from the other side, which will make it much easier. Alright, so one thing we are going to do is add a little bit of rubber seals on these things. I'll just make it easier. Whether it's me or someone else is opening it the next time. So there's a nut missing here. Let's see how this one fitted. Alright, so I'm going to just run some battery cable in here just to get a length of how long I need to go with this. And that will be going to the negative here. So I'll cut that about there. Okay. And make sure it's in the whole way. And we're just going to clamp it. Open it. There you have it. There's the battery clamp. Alright. So try to keep these that are facing away from each other. There's no chance of them kind of coming in contact. That'll sit on there. This cable here and this cable here needs to be joined together. Good connection there. Alright, so blocking the wind again here. But there is all hooked up there now. We have our kill switch in and everything's powered up. I know this is not right. It's not going to be staying like that. It's just going to be sitting like that for a wee while. I have just ordered a straight joiner for this. It's got a shrink wrap and whole thing that fits around it, and that'll be that job done. At least now we have an isolator switch that can turn the power off on this and just leave it much safer. So you push it in and turn, and that should be our power on. Yeah, so I'll turn the isolation switch off now and you should be able to see that light going off. Aye, there it is. I want to finish off something on this that is bugging me big time since we bought it, and that is the brakes. The lack of them, I should say. You do have brakes, alright? But they're very sudden. It's you push the pedal and it's either all or nothing. There's no in between. So they just literally come on, and they only come on one wheel, which is on that side. So when it locks up, it fires the whole digger round, kind of a half semicircle. But these brakes that's on this, these are wet brakes. Some of them had dry brakes, which I suppose the benefit of the dry brakes is you could take off the wheel. A standard hub would be in underneath there, and you could replace the brake shoes and rebuild that easily. You'd have it done quite quickly. But these are wet brakes, so if there is an issue with the brake discs themselves, well then you have to pull the whole half axle out on both sides to fix that. It's a much more complicated job to do, but I don't think that is where our issue lies. I'm going to show you in a minute what I think the issue is. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it is, because it'll not be hard to fix. But before I do that, I'm going to start it up. I'm going to let her go backwards. I'm going to put my foot on the brake, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, before you ask, I'm not stamping my foot on the brakes. I'm just lightly pushing them, and they just all of a sudden engage and just lock up and just swing the whole digger around. Now you can imagine if you're doing any kind of speed and that happened. It's dangerous. It'll throw you completely off the road. So what I'm thinking If you remember, when we were working here on the inside and we had the seat off, we noticed that our parking brake is seized. Now, our mechanism is not seized. What seized is the cables on both sides. The one on that side is completely snapped off. The one on this side is connected, but seized up as well. So there's no movement. But I do notice that they're up quite a bit. And I have a feeling that these are pulling. The brakes is half on this digger all the time. Another thing I noticed as well is when you're going backwards and you put your foot on the brake, when you release the brake, it doesn't fully disengage. Not until you go forward again, and then it releases. So to me, the brakes are half on this digger, and that would explain why when you go to put your foot on the brake, you're pushing down a certain amount until all of a sudden it just locks up. I can see straight away that that's pulling on that. So we're going to loosen that one off. That's the one that's not broken, but it's seized. There's a wee split pin there. I see it's already broken. There we have our little split pin there, what's left of it. I'm just going to let that hang down there for now. There it is. Doesn't look like it's seen much grease now. Oh, that's coming. There it is. Now I have her up on these. I'm going to see is this wheel braking at all, because I don't think there's very little braking come from that wheel. No brakes at all on this wheel. There's no drag or nothing on it. And she's freewheeling. Even when I put my foot sewed to the ground, there's no brakes here at all. You can split the pedal, but it's not as simple as being a normal little tractor. That boy there is wedged in and he's rusted solid, so I don't really want to have to do that. So what I mean by splitting the pedal, you can see there's two pedals there, and both of them are joined by a bar at the back. You can split them and have braking on either side if you want, if you're turning in a tight corner or whatever. And that's another good way you could test your brakes to see what pull you have on both sides. But it is well seized. I'm not going to just do that yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get underneath here or try from above and try to adjust these a wee bit and see can I get some sort of brake happening here. Yeah, see that? That should not be loose. So that could be a good sign. That could mean the brakes have loosened off themselves, just vibrated loose. That's what I'm hoping. Never be that lucky, would I? A few turns and see what happens here. This time I hope we will see some sort of braking happening here. That's very good news. We do have brakes and the brakes do work. This thing had slackened itself off, and I think what happened, if I can explain this right, is this guy here has slackened off. So you see the two nuts that's there? Well, the outer nut is supposed to lock on to the inside nut. You torque them both against each other, and that acts like a lock nut to stop it from loosening off. It's obvious that the outer one must have loosened with just vibration, which can happen, and that allowed the brakes to loosen off, and that meant that this was not pulling at all. Now, another thing I feel is that this here is slightly seized. We are going to spray some penetrating fluid into it and see what that does. Worst case scenario, we'd have to pull the pin, we'd have to pull that piston out, if we can do that and free it up, but we may just get away with putting some penetrating fluid on it and starting to use it. Once it gets used, it might free itself up. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more. I'm going to slacken off the far one and try to get them kind of even, that they're not too snappy, and I think it might solve our problem. I think we have it as good as we can get it. Not perfect, but it's certainly not near as snappy, and it's not throwing you to one side. Get off there. Alright. Some of you might say, Adrian, would you not just use an impact? Yeah, I agree with you. But you see, the thing is, you use an impact. It's written in the work manual. If you were to ring a thread or something, Massey Ferguson wouldn't stand by the warranty. So the yoke's still on the warranty, so I don't want to do that. I think this is going to solve our eye leak here. And it's one less to have to worry about. We'll order 2 new cables for both sides. So we'll get the handbrake working probably in the next one. And that'll not take very long to do. It's great to get these rams on. We've no leaks now in the front of the digger, nice and dry, and that's a change because she was a mess before that. So to have 2 rams that are fully rebuilt from scratch, absolutely brilliant. And another thing, is great to have that kill switch in now that we can turn off and on with ease, and it means just that there'll be no chance of fire, because these oil yokes, you can't trust them in any way, shape or form. I'm not going to join that wire. I'm just going to run a new cable the whole way from there right around to the back of the starter where that earth is going. Just have one continuous cable without any joints. So now that we have that other eye leak fixed as well underneath, it was also good to be able to get this sorted. Now we can see our eye level is just there, so she's full at the minute. But we do have an eye leak coming down here and dripping on the ground. I was wondering where it was coming from, but it showed itself very easily. And there's a little pinhole just there. So we can take that off, either get it brazed or get it replaced. I think we get it brazed because it just comes off there, and I can bring it up to a local shop beside me that does that kind of work, and we might be fit to just patch that hole. So when I get the silage done, slurry out, and things are slowing down on the farm, I'll take into this here, and it'll take me about 2 days to rewire the whole thing. So there are the new wires coming from our backlights. Here is the new wires coming from our LED lights we fitted. So it's just a matter of hooking everything up and then pulling that dash inside completely apart and just reconnecting everything up the way it should be. So the whole face in that is rotted out in the bottom, rotted out in the top. So we're not going to bother trying to fix that. We're just going to cut that entire section out, and I'm going to fabricate a brand new one, weld it in place, cut out 2 new holes for lights and put in a different light in there. Similar to what's there probably, but just new. Another thing that caused an issue even with the brakes is the bounciness of her. She bounces all over the place, and the reason for that, well, you can see here, this doesn't help. You see the kind of ridge there is in the middle of that tyre? She's like an egg, and that's because the wires have probably broken inside the tyre, overinflated, just worn down. And this wheel actually is slightly, not the rim, but the tyre is slightly smaller than the one on the far side. So the whole digger sits slightly that way. There's a big dirty nail in it as well, look at it. Yeah, I have a set of tyres got for it since last December, and I've been putting it off because I wanted to get the front things done and all that stuff sorted first, and then we'll throw a set of tyres on it, because whatever future it has no future with those tyres on it. A viewer also contacted me and said he had a set of glass windows for this side. He's nearly sure it's for this side. He bought them for his own digger, and then he sold the digger, and he was going to throw them out, and he said if you want them, they're there. So we hopefully have the right glass, not too far away from me either, and we've fit to get rid of that nasty looking stuff and put a bit of glass back in the cab. And finally, if you don't think that's enough work, well, this has to come off. This whole arm has to come off to replace that bottom knuckle there. It's going to be a bit of work. We'll do it when all the silage and stuff is all complete. We'll get plenty of time then, hopefully a few evenings, and we'll not be long ripping into it. It has to all totally come off. The way I'm going to go about that is I'm going to disconnect all the pipes in there. I'm going to put the big bucket on this here, the ditch bucket, the wider bucket, wrench the arm completely out, put it on the ground, prop the bottom of this lad here, jack it up, pull the pin out and take that arm completely off. You already have the main fella here, which is sitting over here. So that fella there is what goes onto the bottom of it. We have our other bracket here to replace the one that's broken. We have the bearing that fits in there as well. So look, it's a lot of work, but enjoying it. Something different, lifts your mind off just the normal routine of farming. And I hope you're enjoying it too. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for watching. See you next one. Oh yeah, just one more thing I need to do. That says it all right there.